Before we start our little celebration, please welcome with me Mr. Rainer Steffens, North Rhine-Westphalia's representative with the European Union. Thanks for coming all the way from Brussels to be our guests at this event, Mr. Steffens.
A dream has come true for us. We, students and teachers from 6 European countries, have worked hard to achieve it.
The EMAS certificate.
Now, what's EMAS? Most of you know that it is an environmental certificate. Yes, that's true. But why is it important? What is the philosophy behind it? Well, my colleagues from grade 13 will try to show you why EMAS is important. They worked on it in their English class.
Please welcome with me Melanie Kangalovic, Jakob Muraskowski and Mike Sachon.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our crime morning. Yes, it's crime time here at the Kuniberg. It is EMAS time. EMAS means Eco-Management and Audit Scheme. For those who don't know, EMAS is actually EU speak for a plan to protect God's creation. You won't believe this, but EMAS is actually the result of a crime story. We three will show you why. Well, I bet you all know these two guys, don't you? Yes, indeed, there are Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve's children. And do you also know where this scene is set? I think I heard it. It's outside paradise, just a few miles east of Eden. So, this is the scene of the crime, because the crime it is. As you can see, Cain is about to strike down Abel. But what is the motive? I mean, there has to be one. We all know that nothing happens without a reason. So, what reason does Cain also have to kill his own brother? Well, you are a smart audience. You have noticed the smoke. And smoke is always an indication, a sign from God, so to speak, or a smoking gun, as our American friends would say. The smoke from Abel's fire goes up and up and up into the heavens. It ends up being inhaled by God. And God loves it. I mean, well, it's understandable because God loves roast lamb. Crisp and tender and sizzling as it is, I mean, who doesn't? But what about Cain's offering of smoke? The smoke from Cain's fire does not go up. It does not quite reach God Almighty. It is produced from grain, as you can see here, and grain is a kind of grass. And God certainly does not like to smoke grass. So, that is exactly what happened east of Eden. God favored Abel over Cain. Cain, of course, could not bear such terrible injustice and killed his brother because of his jealousy. The $1 million question now is, why did God, who we think is kind and gentle and just, why did he treat Cain that way? Why did he not accept Cain's offering? We have found an explanation for God's unfairness. And thus, we have found the reason for the very first crime in humankind. EMAS, in other words, protect God's creation. Are you interested to see the explanation? I'm going to show it to you anyway. So, here you can see a scene from the life of the world's first human societies. Mankind as God wanted it to be. The nomads roamed the earth. They went north and south, east and west. They could swim in the river, bathe in the sun, and enjoy life. Unfortunately, there were quite a few drawbacks to this idyllic life east of Eden. The people were not quite safe. The saber-toothed tiger was looming at every corner, and he was quite a hungry one, I tell you. And they also had to carry around all their possessions, as you can see here. If the nomads were not quite fast enough, or if they could not find any berries to pick, they had to go to bed hungry. If, however, you look at this scene from the creators, from God's point of view, it was quite okay. God created everything. The bees and the trees, man and the tiger, birds, and even the grass. So, from his godly view, the motto was, eat and be eaten. And this is what we call an inclusive lifestyle or an inclusive society. It is a form of life where everybody has the same rights and the same obligations. No creature is superior to any other. This is Abel's lifestyle. He is your typical traditional nomad. He is the guy that pleases God, and God therefore accepts his offering. God enjoys his smoke. This is, I forgot to tell you, this is quite a radical EMAS society, obviously. Allow me to introduce you Cain. Cain is a clever one. Cain is an inventor. He is the man who thinks for himself, the guy who uses his brains. Unfortunately, being smart often leads to unhappiness. So, you know, it is cold, it is raining, so why, Cain asked himself, why do I have to run after the animals all day long? Why do I have to walk for miles to pick some berries? And why the heck do I have to compete with Abel, who hunts the same animals and picks the same berries? In that very moment, Cain has an idea. If this beautiful land was mine, I could settle down and live off it. I would no longer have to move around, and I could have more wives, more fun, and as a consequence of it, a lot more children. So that is exactly what Cain does. He builds a fence around his land. Of course, he now has to protect his land from all sorts of enemies. The deers and the stags, and wolves and tigers and birds and weeds. He says, this land is mine. He even has to keep his brother's herds from trampling down his tomatoes. With his fence, Cain introduces a completely new way of looking at the world. He creates private property. This is a real revolution. It is a revolution directed against God's law of equality among creatures. It is the first wind of social change, as we call it. This is a change directed against inclusion. This Cainian revolution founds a new lifestyle, the extractive lifestyle. In extractive societies, some have more rights than others. Man has more rights than the earth, the air, the water, the plants, and the animals. Man can own them all. Some men have even more rights than others. Cain now owns part of the land that was given to him and to his brother. In fact, he robs Abel of part of what God gave them both. He extracts wealth. Now, how do you think God reacted to this revolution? Exactly, you're right. God turns down Cain's offering. I mean, he does not even look at him. Because God sees that Cain is trying to play God, and God knows that extractive societies destroy the eternal balance he had created. And that is exactly why he looks down gently on Abel. Abel abides by God's laws. He preserves the balance within creation. So, what do you think? Which economic model will be more successful in the future? Abel's or maybe Cain's? The inclusive or the extractive society?
Yes, indeed. During the next few thousand years, a wind of change sweeps over the earth. Fences are being built all over the planet. Stone fences and wooden fences and Chinese walls all over Eurasia. Castles in Europe. Fences and forts in the Americas. These fences and walls had to be guarded, so weapons were invented. And all these fences and walls and borders and weapons have one common characteristic. They are meant to protect Cain's claim, this is mine. The result is even more extraction and more land grabbing. But well, we must admit, there is also an upside to this extractive way of life. If there had not been any private property, we might still be nomads. We might still be hunting and gathering, instead of enjoying life, here at school, at Kuniberg Berufsschule. Cain's idea is very robust. It is the basis of all the ancient societies, of Babylon and Egypt, of Greece and Rome. All these societies are governed by Cain's claim, this is mine. Well, the motto was improved a bit later on in history. It now reads, you are mine. extraction now includes the people. Thus, the slave owner states are born. They are highly extractive, as you will certainly agree. Not even the bodies belong to the people themselves anymore. As you can see, extraction continues all through feudalism. Now, the king owns everything. The king grants a few rights to his barons and knights, but all the wealth is produced by these poor guys here, the serfs. They have to toil all day long to feed these other guys. Thus, extraction is the name of the game in the feudal society too. In other words, Keynes' law rules feudalism. Let us have a look at England during the Industrial Revolution. Initially, there were mainly merchants and landowners in the parliament. Due to the fact that property rights of the people were guaranteed by law, some people started to build little factories. Clever people, like Keynes, invented machines and they registered the patents. So they built a fence around their own ideas. Becoming wealthier, these craftsmen wanted to have a say in politics too. Thus, they petitioned the parliament. The parliament therefore had to change the laws. As a result, craftsmen and manufacturers became richer and they had a vote too. Finally, the parliament had to accept craftsmen and manufacturers too. These parliamentarians passed new laws that supported their own interest. And now the virtuous circle continues. As a consequence, the whole British society became more inclusive, more democratic. Look at this little group of islands. This is Great Britain. What we have seen so far suggests that it is possible for a little country like Great Britain to become a democratic and inclusive society simply because it has introduced political and economic reforms. But we do not think that this is the whole truth. Our thesis is that inclusive and democratic societies can only develop as a result of economic extraction, or as you may say, exploitation. So, the question now is, who did England exploit to become a democratic society? Well, at first, cheap cotton was imported from the American colonies. Cheap labor was extracted from Africa to work in the American plantations to produce cheap cotton. Cheap spices and other raw materials were extracted from India and the Far East and sold at a profit. Australia's Aborigines and New Zealand's Maoris were never paid for the land that was included into the British Commonwealth. Here you can see the British possessions abroad. This tiny island, Britain, owned all the land and the people marked in pink. Not bad, huh? In 1922, Britain earned 20% of the Earth's population and 25% of the Earth's landmass. No wonder then that they could afford to be a democracy. Huh? And do you think the rest of the world was really independent? No, it wasn't.
Inclusive society has developed because of extraction in other parts of the world. This analysis suggests that societies must be rich to become democracies. Remember Cain? To have a nice green garden, he had to exploit and keep out the rest of God's creation. Let us now have a look at what this thesis means for us today. We are today living in a globalized world. The idea is that the free flow of goods and services around the world will lead to an inclusive world in which there is no exploitation, no slavery, no hunger. A world in which everybody has the same rights. A democratic world. A world in which everybody is as well off as you are. This is a very nice idea. However, in our view, somebody has to pay for such inclusion, for such a good and democratic life for everybody. Everything comes with a price. Democracy as we know it is not for free. Milton Friedman says there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Who will pay this price? Somebody always will have to pay, and in this case, it is nature who pays for our extractive lifestyle. Here you can see a few images that show you how nature is exploited to support our lifestyle. We need a lot of energy, and as you all know, the use of fossil fuels has direct and indirect consequences. We need raw materials, and we extract more and more of them. We pollute our environment more and more. This picture shows in an impressive way what will happen to our Earth if we continue to follow Cain's wind of change. If we continue our extractive way of life, we will destroy our planet. But there's hope. We have to do whatever Cain also taught us. We have to start a new revolution, a green revolution. And as we have learned, the motto of any revolution is representation. So our new motto must be that of the American Revolution, the motto of the Boston Tea Party. No extraction without representation. And this green revolution is exactly what is happening today. It takes time, but there's no way around it. Let us have a look at the European Parliament. In the beginning, Mother Nature had no voice in the European Parliament. In the 60s, some young people started to develop ideas that appeared crazy. The hippies. And some of you will certainly remember the time. They really loved flowers and they certainly hated war. Then, non-governmental organizations took over some of their ideas. Nowadays, there is a political party that gives a voice to the sky and the water, the trees and the flowers, the lizard and the eagle, the mole and the shark. Even the polar bear has a seat there. The frog, the dragonfly and the butterfly have a vote now. Even the flowers are represented in the European Parliament. As you can see, the idea started to spread on the left side of this house. But now, the protection of the environment has entered the party programs of all the parties, on the right and in the middle. This increasing political awareness has caused the Parliament to issue the EMAS directive. See, you thought we would never ever return to our main topic, EMAS, or protect God's creation. But here we are. You will now realize what EMAS actually is. We have returned right to the beginning. God is looking down at what you are doing. Well, today we tend to be guided by external laws. That is why we need institutions to tell us what to do and what not to do. We need laws. The European Parliament assumes the ethical responsibility of protecting God's creation. It can do so because all God's creation has been given a vote in this inclusive political organization. That is why the European Parliament has the power to issue environmental laws and directives like EMAS. If institutions like Kuniberg Berufskolleg abide by this law, they are awarded the EMAS certificate. Those companies that break environmental laws are criticized. In conclusion, it appears that all the Cains in history are the wrongdoers of our EMAS crime story. But can we blame them? Can we send all the canes to prison? Do we really want to return to the primitive lives of hunters and gatherers? No, we can't, because their inventive minds have produced both environmental destruction, but also the happy lives we all live today. In a nutshell, what we have been trying to bring home to you today is this. The development of humanity is the result of a series of revolutions. Revolutions are ambivalent. They have positive and negative consequences. Thus, the agricultural and industrial revolution have greatly improved the standard of living, especially in the first world. We can be very happy about that. At the same time, both these revolutions have serious negative impacts on our environment. And we cannot be very proud of that, can we? These indirect negative consequences have resulted in what we want to call an environmental revolution. These indirect negative consequences, the European Eco-Management and Audit Scheme is one tool that can be used to carry out this revolution. Where this revolution will lead us is anybody's guess. We are optimistic and we believe if we are more aware of the indirect consequences of our inventive minds, we will achieve both. Keep a high standard of living and preserve the material basis for such a life. This is why we think that people have to cooperate. This is why 6 European schools have been cooperating in a convenience project. And this is why we have chosen EMAS. Thank you.
And now, please listen again to the EKS Big Band. have been working under this very parachute in 6 different countries. This parachute has become a symbol of our common goal, to make a little contribution to saving our planet. The EMAS certificate marks the end of our Comenius project. At the same time, it marks the beginning of a period of hard work.
Together, we have to fulfill all the promises we made in our environmental program during the next 4 years.
Who is we?
It is the school community, it is all of you at Kuniberg. And it is the district administration, the owner of all these buildings.
That is why we would like to ask Mr. Steffens to hand over the certificate to the heads of these 2 organizations. Please do join us here on stage, Mr. Steffens.
How can these young students produce such great music? Can you see that they are steaming with motivation and commitment? They listen to one another. They trust one another. They use a common language and they have a common goal. And the result is harmony.
Such harmony is exactly what was necessary during the last 2 years in our common Comenius project. Without harmony, there would have been no common result. How do you produce such harmony when 6 schools, 6 nations, 6 cultures are involved? The participants will tell you themselves. They will now show you some highlights of the project.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our presentation. We would like to give you a short insight into the progress of our project.
We have subdivided our presentation into 3 main parts. To start with, we will explain to you what the EU Comenius project is about. After that, I will try to tell you what EMAS is. And next, each country will briefly present the activities to you.
As you may know, the European Union wants to bring young people together. That's why they've put together some programs. Comenius is one of them. In our programs, students and teachers from 6 countries work together. Work together on a topic, sorry. Our topic is the environment, because we want to do something to save the world from destruction. And this is what the European Union also wants to do. That's why the European Parliament has written a regulation that all the companies and all the institutions should follow. It's the EMAS directive. So, what we wanted to do during the 2 years of the project was to make our schools more environmentally friendly. We also wanted to obtain a certificate, the EMAS certificate. Comenius project has many other aims as well. As I've mentioned before, Comenius is about uniting the European Union. That's why the 6 schools work together. In doing so, teachers and students get to know all the culture of the 6 countries much better. And they experience how teachers and students in all these countries work. Another aim was to give the participants an opportunity to become real friends. That is what we very much like.
The next transparency will scare you. It's a bit complex. I'll try to tell you what EMAS is all about in a few simple words. So, what is EMAS? EMAS means Economic Management and Audit Scheme. It's actually a plan that helps the schools not to destroy the environment. Therefore, its aim is to reduce the school's negative impacts on the environment. So, how can this be done? EMAS says that there has to be a plan that contains many aspects. Who does what, when, where, who is responsible, and how can we measure what we have achieved. We also have to write reports on everything we have done. As you can see, it's a very complex process. So, what does EMAS want to improve? There are the 6 important key areas. The energy efficiency. How can we use less gas per mile? The material efficiency. How can we use fewer raw materials? Water. How can we avoid wasting fresh water? Waste. How can we reduce the amount of waste? Biodiversity. How can we save animals and plants? and emissions, how can we create less smoke and noise? EMAS is not a one-time activity. In order to become an EMAS school, we have to prove that we care for the environment in a systematic way and over a long period of time. Here's the management method. First, we have to make a plan of what we want to achieve. Let's say, reduce the amount of waste. Next, we have to do that. Teachers and students have to be trained, and somebody has to be responsible. This process has to be monitored. At a certain point in time, we need to check whether we have achieved our aim. So we need to measure our results and record them. The last step is called ACT. There we have to check whether the entire system works or not. If we set the wrong aims in stage 1, or did not the right thing in stage 2, or if we did not check our results in stage 3, we cannot achieve our aims. So we have to improve the entire system. That means we have to do it again. That means we have to act.
Here you can see a map with all the countries and cities which are involved in this project. Yes. Let us now have a look at a few activities of the German students in Recklinghausen. Well, we started our project with a project day in September 2011 because we wanted to inform everybody about this nice project. The EMAS project started with the question, what can different groups of people do to stop climate change? For that, the students looked at the government, the politicians, the companies, and the consumers.
To catch the attention of the students, they created a banner which was put up in school. Here you can see the footprints, which are a symbol of the ecological footprints each of us leaves on Earth. It shows that we all influence our environment. We therefore have the responsibility to make sure that the generations after us can also live in this environment.
The symbol of this project is a parachute, under which one can see the Earth. The EMAS parachute saves the Earth. This parachute is also a symbol of the connection between the young people of the European Union. By the way, our Belgian friends joined us during the project day and they were responsible for hanging up this parachute. Thanks again for your help, gentlemen.
In November 2012, the students organized another project day on avoiding and separating waste. The aim of the project was to make the students aware of their responsibility. To do so, different activities were planned. These two boys, for example, over there, gave a lesson on the topic waste separation. After the lesson, all the students could test their new knowledge about waste by taking part in different challenges. These were only a few EMAS activities in Recklinghausen. Let us now go to Finland and see what happened there.
The first meeting of this project took place in November 2011 in Kokemäki, Finland.
The active teachers of this project met at our school, Sataidu, in order to plan the next 2 years.
They had a tour at our school with environmental aspect, a presentation of the environmental program of Sataidu, and lecture about EMAS certificate by an expert from Det Norske Veritas.
They also chose a topic for the coming meetings and agreed on how to disseminate the results of our project. Here you can see what each country was responsible for.
Teachers from different countries got also a chance to get to know the Finnish culture by different activities like fishing and storing firewood, relaxing in sauna and enjoying hot tub under the stars.
This meeting was first meeting of teachers and students. It happened in January 2012 with 4 workshops as the main programs.
First workshop was focused on preservation of heat in buildings. We also compared consumption of different schools involved in this project, and we figured out that the lowest consumption was in school in Italy. In second workshop, we were investigating consumption of normal used electrical appliances like televisions, microwaves, kettles, and computers. We also compared consumption between old and new television and computer technologies. Next workshop was focused on development of bulb lighting systems and their more efficient energy use. We compared classic light bulbs, saving light bulbs, and LED light bulbs. In last workshop, we worked with communication system at twinning that we partly use for communication in EMAS project. Students and teachers can send messages each other through the system and also share different types of documents.
Next day we visited Pilsen Brewery. We heard something about his history and about their EMAS marks. In the afternoon we looked over Pilsen site and we visit Patton Museum. On Saturday we went to the Prague. We explored the city and we had free time. It's all from Pilsen meeting.
I would like to describe in few words Italian mobility in May 2012. As you can see from the first picture, the group meeting in the city hall with the mayor, the group was very big. In the second picture we put the symbol of our city, the cathedral, the Ghirlandina Bell Tower and Piazza Grande, were deservedly recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. The theme of the project meeting was energy, and we organized 2 workshops about it. In one, a teacher explained the consumption of most common electric equipment. In the second, our teacher explained the possible house in the future, house zero energy request. During the lesson, we also did a survey about what we usually do at our home to avoid too much thermal and the electric consumption. In the third picture, you can see our fantastic teacher explain. In the first picture, you can see some pupils and teachers working on a photovoltaic panel. This activity was done at Energy Agency in Modena, and we organized 4 workshops, 4 groups working on a different project: insulation, solar panel, photovoltaic panel, and thermocamera. The last photo was done during the parade of recycled bags. You can see this beautiful girl with a very special makeup and their homemade bags. A great success, maybe mostly because of girl. You can understand we are mostly males. In the second slide, we represented moments of funny and relax. In the first picture, you can see some pupils preparing their food specialty, and we had dishes coming from 6 different countries. Modena is the home of Ferrari, and so in the second picture you can see Ferrari Museum, in which are represented the most important moments of Enzo Ferrari's life. Ferrari's museum has been designed by a Czech architect. And the last picture was done during all picture. In the last picture, all the group was enjoying a picnic in the park after the visit at Energy Agency. It was a very relaxing moment with chats and games among pupils and teachers. We enjoyed this mobility, and we hope there will be more mobilities in future. Thanks for your attention.
In October, we Hungarians were the host of the 4th meeting. We started our meeting in a sunny morning with the rising of the parachute. every student who was in the school could see this event. We waited for this moment to happen and our friends from the participant schools to be there. In the afternoon there was a meeting in the Pusta with locals like strange stubborn rider with wig and some angry white buffalo. You can see the buffalo while attacking the bus. Of course there were big dinners in nice places like Hotel Fiu and the Green Elephant. To get rid of the extra kilos, there was folk dance after the dinner with folk dancers from our school. The next day we visited our water work company, where we could see how the modern system works and how they supply the clean water for the city. Békéscsaba New Pride, the agricultural center, which is called now Csabanyangya, was under construction at that time. We could show the progress of it and the usage of the geothermal energy. The last event was a visit to our capital city, Budapest. The participants visited the Matthias Church in Buda. This is the first picture. And the Hungarian parliament, where they could see the crown jewels, which were worn by our first king, Stephen I. All in all, we are proud to show our improvements and to meet with other nations' pupils who care about our environment.
I'm going to tell you what we did in Belgium. First, 2 of my colleague pupils made a waste sorting machine, which you can see here. Then we went to Aquafin, a company that recycles used water and produces energy out of waste. We also went to the European Parliament, where we had an interactive guided tour about European integration and the impact on our daily life. And finally, we went to Bruges, the Venice of the North.
As you can see, we have gone a long way to achieve our results, the EMAS certificate. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for this insight. Before listening to the final piece of music, we would like to thank you for your cooperation during the last 2 years and for honoring us with your presence today. After the show, please join us over there for a little drink.